Hi everyone, I'm back with a new video. I wanted to make some new videos before Malmö. My last video was the Amsterdam pre-party and I said back then that I wanted to make some kind of video between now and the actual week of Eurovision. And I am. I've decided to talk about the rehearsals for both semi-finals because the day I'm filming this, Sunday the 28th, we've just had all of the rehearsals for the first semi-final. They've just finished, we've got all the photographs. I love this time of year in the calendar of Eurovision when we get the rehearsal footage and the images and we know what the stagings will be like. Everybody starts speculating about who might not qualify, who could qualify. Pleasant surprises, there's always some every year, and it's the same this year. There are some improvements from some countries, I think. So I'm going to talk about in two different videos, semi-final 1 and semi-final 2, some of my thoughts on the rehearsals that we've got so far, some of my favourites, and some countries that impressed me more than I thought they would. And I'll talk a little bit about whether this changes anything in terms of predictions of qualifiers. It might have changed things a little bit, but I'll get to that later. Now, I'm not going to talk about every single country, every single performance. I'm just going to pick out the ones that stood out to me, either in a good way or a bad way as well. So from semi-final 1, one of my favourites that we've seen so far is Ireland. And Ireland has grown on me in general a lot recently, and it's actually in my top 10 now. I've actually moved it up into my top 10. I think it was like 14th, 13th, 15th, something like that. But yeah, I'm really getting on board with Doomsday Blue a lot more now. And there's a lot more positivity about this. There has been for a while, actually, because Bambi did a lot of pre-parties, and I think that helped build the momentum for it. I think people paid more attention to it, and it's being regarded now as a qualifier. I'll talk a bit about that in a minute. But yeah, it's got a lot more positivity around it. People are feeling really good about this, especially because it's Ireland and it's not what you'd expect from Ireland, and they haven't qualified for quite a few years. 2018 it was, and you compare it to last year, this is just a million times better than that. And the Irish fans are really excited about this and they're very proud of this. So a lot of people are really getting behind this now, and I think they've done what we wanted them to do, and that was improve the staging from the national final, the Late Late Show in Ireland, because my worry was that it just wouldn't translate well on stage. But looking at the pictures, it looks like it will. I had Ireland down before as a kind of borderline non-qualifier. I think I just thought that a lot of people just wouldn't get it. It would just be too much for some people. And I actually do still think that. That hasn't really changed. And that's why I think it's not a guaranteed qualifier. Like, yeah, it's looking more hopeful, but I still wouldn't guarantee it will definitely qualify because it could still be, too much for some people. But I think the chances have increased, I think. The staging looks very theatrical, which is what we expected, really. Very creative, very witchy, of course, very dark. It's giving a cult. I love, well, apparently the candles in the circle will rise up at the end. I can't wait to see that. That sounds really cool. So there's still some things that we don't know. They're not giving everything away. We haven't seen the whole thing yet, but what we have seen, it's looking really good. It's looking like a piece of theatrical art. So good luck, Ireland. You have got a good chance for this. I think this could be a good year for you. You could be in the final. Fingers crossed. Let's hope so. I can't wait to see more, and I can't wait to see the whole thing live. One of my other favourites, which is one of my favourites overall, still in my top three in general, is Ukraine. And this is, of course, I mean, Ukraine are always good at staging. So, of course, it's looking good. Ukraine don't usually disappoint with staging, and this is looking stunning. Really is. Visually, I've always loved the dynamic between Jerry Hale and Aliona. This has always been one of my favourite songs of the year. It sounds haunting, and I think it will look haunting, and I'm sure they'll sound brilliant as well. I didn't know what to expect from the staging really, but it's definitely a huge improvement from the national final performance. I mean, it had to be, really. I don't think we knew what they were going to do. But yeah, it looks epic. It looks stunning. I'm sure it will be amazing. Could get top five in the final overall, I think. Could it win the semi-final? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I love this. This is still one of my favourites and it's looking good. In terms of winning the semi-final, that brings me on quite nicely to Croatia, which could also maybe win the semi-final, and it is one of the favourites overall to win the whole thing. So with Croatia, I really like the fact that they've kept it very similar to the national final, because I think that is what they had to do. They've made the perfect choice by keeping the main elements of it exactly the same, with the animals in the background, the cats, the dancing cats on the LEDs in the background. What they've done is made the costumes more elaborate, more fancy, but the whole theme is the same, and that's perfect. That's all they had to do. It looks like there'll be lots of fire and pyro at the end. So yeah, pretty much what we expected, really, but that's fine. They didn't have to change much of it at all. In terms of winning, because we know it's qualifying, we don't have to talk about the chances of it qualifying. It's definitely going through. In terms of it winning, because it is such a big favourite and it always has been, now that we've seen the staging, it hasn't really made me think more that it's definitely going to win. It hasn't made me look at the staging and think, oh yeah, Croatia's winning. Hasn't really changed my mind on that. Like, it hasn't given that much away. Like, yeah, it still is one of the favourites. That probably won't change much. Although I still kind of feel like it won't win. It doesn't feel like a winner to me. So yeah, it hasn't really changed my mind much on that. But it is looking amazing, and it's going to be so epic and powerful. I do still really like it though. It is still one of my favourites. It's in my top five. But yeah, it's looking good. Now, I've said before, one of my favourites from semi-final one is it's actually Australia, and it's still in my top 10. I love it. And they've rehearsed now, they're in Malmö, we've seen the staging, and it's looking good, I think. I never doubted them. Like, I've always supported them throughout this whole thing, and I've always thought that people are underestimating them. And people could be in for a shock, because I think people are expecting this not to do well. But actually, I think it could. Like, it's so uplifting and so colourful. I think the staging will be very colourful. And I do think that this could actually qualify. I still think it could. I just think they will put on a good performance that will wake people up in the second half of that semi-final, which is quite not boring, or maybe some people might think it's boring, but very slow. There's lots of ballads in there. And I think having Australia in that second half will wake people up, I think. So I do think it could still qualify. Maybe I shouldn't be too shocked if it doesn't, though. So those are my favourites. And I think Ireland is the one that's improved the most and the one that's made me think more highly of, or made me think that it's got a lot more chances of qualifying now than maybe it did before. But yeah, I'd say Ireland, Ukraine, obviously, Croatia, yeah, Australia. I mean, those are my favourites from that semi-final anyway. But Ireland has improved for me and gone up in my estimations even more now. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about countries that I'm a bit worried about in terms of maybe not qualifying. And this is where predictions could change a little bit, because I had Ireland down as a non-qualifier and now I think it could make it. Now, one of my favourite songs from semi-final one, and is actually in my top 10, is Slovenia. But now I'm worried for Slovenia. And I know a lot of people have said for a while now that this could be in trouble. And I think I just kind of ignored it. But now, yeah, I think I realise now that yes, Slovenia probably is in trouble. I don't know why, because I think the song is good, but there's just something about it that's just making me think it might not stand out that much. People might not vote for this, and it could be the shock non-qualifier of the semi-final maybe. I also had Poland down as a qualifier, Cyprus as a non-qualifier, and now I'm thinking it could be the other way around. Poland is confusing because the staging it's got people talking, not always in a good way. It looks very chaotic, there's a lot going on. There's two ways of looking at it. You could say, oh, it's an absolute mess, it looks awful. And that's what I thought at first. When you look at different angles and different pictures of it, I think, oh, actually, it looks quite good. But maybe they have done too much. Because a lot of people said with Poland, oh, they'll get through because of all the neighbours they've got voting for them. And yeah, that does make sense. But then you think, well, maybe not necessarily. Well, you know, what if that's not enough? And see, this is the big question a lot of people have. Can every song from a half of a semi-final qualify, or does there have to be one song from that half that doesn't? Has there ever been a semi-final where every song from the first or second half has qualified, or does there always have to be at least one that doesn't make it? I genuinely don't know the answer to that. If you do, let me know. Is it impossible, or could it happen? I also have concerns about Portugal and Serbia, and I always have, to be honest. In my prediction, I had Serbia down as a qualifier. I know that the number 2 position is not ideal. And Portugal, I think I had that down as a qualifier as well. But honestly, I can see at least one of them, probably Portugal, not qualifying. Again, I don't know why. I just feel like there has to be 5 countries. I think it will be one of those, one or two of those ballads. So Slovenia, Portugal and Serbia. I think, even though before I said they're all going through, now I don't think they're all safe. So I think I'll leave it there. Like I said, I wasn't going to talk about every single staging, every single country, but I did pick out the ones that stood out to me. And if I had to pick one country that's really made me think differently, it would be Ireland, I think. And in terms of the predictions that I did a few weeks ago, or maybe even a month ago now, like I said then, things can change, you know, they always do. And yeah, I probably have got some of those predictions wrong. I do still think that Iceland, Moldova, and probably Azerbaijan won't qualify. But then there's that group of countries that I'm just really not sure of, like Serbia, Slovenia, Poland, Cyprus. Yeah, I'm still not sure on those. But maybe Ireland have moved up a few places for me. So, yeah, I can imagine Ireland actually being the last country, if they do qualify, being the last country to be called out. I can see that happening. But yeah, this is going to be really interesting because there's a lot of songs that I'm just really not sure of if they could make it or not. So it's going to be interesting to watch, definitely. Ukraine and Croatia are still the personal favourites in terms of the song for me from this semi-final though. So yeah, I'm sure the big favourites that are expected to do well will do well and will go through. So yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts about the rehearsals so far for the first semi-final. What are your favourites? What are your standouts? Anything you're disappointed in? And is there anything that's made you think differently? Is there a country you thought wouldn't go through it first, but now you think they will, or the other way around? Let me know in the comments below and I will do this same video for semi-final 2. So I'm looking forward to watching, yet again, more of these rehearsals, following everything on Twitter. I'm glued to my phone at the moment on Twitter because every 20 minutes, half an hour, we get more information. So yeah, very fascinating to watch. So I will see you for the next video, semi-final 2, those rehearsals. And I'm really looking forward to that because you've got my favourite, the Netherlands, and Switzerland. And you've got Italy as well in the Big Five. And Greece. Can't wait for that. See you then. Thank you for watching.